Hello and welcome back to another Doctor Who action figure review. In today's review, I'm taking a look at the latest B&M release, which is the 10th Doctor collector figure set, featuring the 10th Doctor, the 10th Doctor, and the 10th Doctor. So, as ever, let's begin by taking a look at the packaging. The figures come packaged in the standard window box with the stacked Doctor Who logo, the greyed out TARDIS, the gold foil limited edition sticker, and the little red box out saying that this is part of the 5.5-inch range. On the back of the box, we have a biography about the 10th Doctor, along with some information about the different looks featured inside this set. So one thing that does need addressing before we continue is there's some information on the back of the box which might seem a little misleading, but there's a reason for that. It says here, in this set we have a figure of the 10th Doctor in his third variant of outfit and wearing his long duster-style overcoat. The figure has ball-jointed shoulders, not released before. You can see immediately, just looking at the figure in the packaging, this is not the ball-jointed shoulder 10th Doctor that was originally leaked as a prototype on eBay, I believe, a little while back, maybe last year. And I imagine that was some sort of a test run to see if they could do it, and obviously they could. But within that time, something has changed, whether that's to do with the factory or to do with the budget, and we have just got the usual standard 10th Doctor with the usual articulation. So out of the box we have our three 10th Doctors, and there's quite a few things to talk about here, and I imagine the first thing we're all thinking is, what's he from? But we'll discuss him in a moment. Let's start off with the other figures in this set. So first of all, we have our blue-suited, red plimsolled version of the 10th Doctor that we first see in Smith & Jones. Now, the box specifies that both blue-suited versions of the 10th Doctor in this set are from the wedding of Sarah Jane Smith. Now, the first thing that immediately jumped out at me is the fact that neither 10th Doctor has red pinstripes on his suit. The reason for this, I'm not 100% sure, because I did have a quick sneaky look at the wedding of Sarah Jane Smith, and he does have pinstripes on his suit. I think the other thing is, in the episode, the pinstripes are quite hard to see, particularly against that bright blue. So I think that's another reason why they've opted to not have the red pinstripes. What I will say, however, is I think that the blue that they've used for the suits looks fantastic. It's a really lovely shade of blue. I think it's a much better shade of blue than the initial version that came out back in 2007. I think it's a closer match to that blue. And they've updated some other aspects of it. The shirt is a slightly brighter blue, and the tie now has kind of a floral pattern on it, again to match what he wears in the wedding of Sarah Jane Smith. And then moving down to the shoes, he's got the red plimsolls, and as you can see they're a bit dirty. There's a dirty wash over the top which really stands out on the white portions, and he's got the blue stripe around the edge of the shoes as well. Another thing that I was kind of surprised to see on all three of these 10th Doctors is the use of that original 10th Doctor head from Series 2. I was kind of expecting that if we were getting some 10th Doctors, we'd see the updated hair, the more spiky hair that we saw on the likes of the tuxedo version of the 10th Doctor that came out several years ago, just to kind of modernise it and fit in more with the way he was looking in those later series, particularly in Wedding of Sarah Jane Smith, because that's just as he was about to leave the programme. In fact, I think he'd left the programme by that point. I think that was the last thing he shot. All I can think of is perhaps the head is not compatible with that body, which is a shame, but that is what I would have liked to have seen here on both versions, not just the suited version, but of course we have the brown coated version as well, the brown coat, which is very similar to the version that we saw in the 13 Doctors set, because it's got the additional highlights of the dark brown paint on the buttons, so they stand out even better. Again, like I said, he doesn't have his red pinstripes, but this is the Sarah Jane version, so who knows, maybe the trickster pinches stripes. Again, he's got the Series 2 head sculpt. I love the blue on this guy. It looks so much better than the original. The lack of the pinstripes is less obvious here because he's got the big coat covering everything up. And then we move on to our third and final figure, which is the ragged outfit 10th Doctor, which, like I said at the start, comes from one of the comic books. This one is a little bit confusing. I had absolutely no idea what this was all about because I don't read the 10th Doctor comics. I don't really read the Doctor Who comics that much. I'm actually recording this little segment post the announcement of the figures because, thankfully, Cy Hodges on Twitter posted the cover that this 10th Doctor figure is based on, which is this one here. So it was designed by Will Brooks. He's taken the 11th Doctor outfit, the raggedy one that we see in the 11th Hour, and he's flipped it, and we've got the 10th Doctor's head on it, and we've got this bone in his hand. And, you know, it's a cool cover, it's a striking cover. That's where it comes from. I'm glad that I actually have an inkling as to what this is all about. What makes this more weird, and this is something that I've never really liked with Titan Comics covers, is that the cover has absolutely nothing to do with the contents of the book. And as far as I'm aware, and I would love someone to prove me wrong, but as far as I've been told, the cover has absolutely no story anywhere whatsoever. It's just, that would be a cool cover. So this is a figure that is based on a comic cover that has literally no story behind it, but it makes for an interesting looking figure. So they've taken the raggedy 11th Doctor figure that came out back in 2010, and they've updated it by adding the 10th Doctor's head. They've also changed the tie. The tie has that floral pattern like the other 10th Doctors in this set. Otherwise, it's a great looking figure in terms of the sculpt's very good, all the tattiness, the tears and things are great, and they've added some brown wash over the top to accentuate how tatty his costume has gotten. And then it gets really weird because you can see that the pinstripes don't even go all the way around to the back of his ass. So again, it just feels a bit strange. I'm assuming that the reason why that has happened is because perhaps the painting template was created with the PVC of the jacket in mind for the 10th Doctor's backside, so those bits wouldn't need to be painted. But then when you have a figure like this, it obviously looks a bit weird. That could be completely wrong. Perhaps it's a cost-saving issue. I don't know, but yeah, maybe the trickster started stealing his pinstripes off his hips on this suit, and then he swapped to the blue one and it was too late. Who knows? In terms of articulation, the suited Doctor and the long-coated Doctor both have the same articulation. They have swivel joint at the neck, so the head can turn back and forth. At the shoulders, so they can swivel all the way around. Swivel joints at the elbows, so they can move up and down. No wrist articulation, unfortunately. Articulation at the waist. At the hips, so they can go forwards and out to the sides. And then swivel joints the knee. And then for the ragged Doctor, you've got similar articulation, but there's a little bit extra. Same articulation at the neck. It can turn left and right. You've got the swivel joints at the shoulder, but also a swivel joint at the bicep. Articulation at the wrists, at the waist, and then, just as before, at the hip, moving forward and out to the side, and also swivel joint at the knee. So there we go, guys. That is the 10th Doctor Collector's set. This has turned out to be the most divisive out of the four this summer, which honestly is not a surprise to me. I assumed that was going to be the case when I first got them. And I must speak as I find, I do think this is the weakest set of the four. I think the trouble is, articulation issues aside, that the head sculpts just feel too outdated. That's not to say there isn't a good likeness of David Tennant. It's a likeness that is so restricted to a particular time, and you kind of feel like that's what could have done with a bit of an upgrade. So yeah, I think this is the weakest of the four, but I do think that the new paint applications on those Sarah Jane Adventures 10th Doctors are really great. I do like that new blue. It does look a hell of a lot better than the originals. And then the raggedy 10th Doctor, that feels like a strange choice in and of itself, particularly when it has absolutely no narrative behind it, particularly when it comes to a character like the 10th Doctor, where we've had a bazillion variants of that character. Those are my thoughts. I'll leave it up to you to decide. Good luck tracking these down, and I'll see you all next time.